Good evening, folks. My name is Mark LaSalle, and I'm very pleased to see a great crowd here tonight. I'm especially pleased to see the 4 candidates for mayor here tonight. I'm part of the Ocean Springs Environmental Alliance. And first of all, before I go too far, I want to thank the Mary C. for letting us use this beautiful facility. This is a crown jewel for Ocean Springs, and it's a beautiful place to have it. I'm very thankful that many of the candidates, if not all of the candidates for alderman, were here tonight. That's what we wanted to do. Let me tell you a little briefly about what we are and why we're here tonight, okay? So, Environmental Alliance, it's a group of like-minded people that love nature and the environment that we live in. And our mission is very simple. We're simply trying to promote good quality environment in our community. And it's not just in Ocean Springs. Of course, these 4 people know that. The iconic tree canopy is very important. But it's not just about the scenic value of a community like Ocean Springs, but it's about it's public health. It's the healthy environment that we live in that makes a difference. It's also, in many ways, spiritual, too. It's quality of life for us. Okay, so, and we work hand in hand with HOSA and other groups as well, the Sierra Club and many other groups to try to help promote and try to bring people to the middle, and that's what we do. Okay, and I jokingly said, I used to work for the Extension Service, and I'm a wetland person, and that used to be a 4-letter word, folks. And I finally got my referee shirt, and it had, they're expensive, right? I got one, but I wanted one that had tire tracks painted on both sides. I didn't bring it tonight because this is not a debate. This is just a conversation. But we do need to have more and more conversations about how we care for and are good stewards for our environment. So our goal tonight is to have these 4 individuals tell us what they think about their view of the environment for Ocean Springs and how they will address the issues that we came up with. So again, the way we do this, we're going to give each candidate a couple of minutes, 3 minutes each, for opening statements. They're going to tell us who they are and, you know, whatever they want, okay, why they're running for the mayor of Ocean Springs. And then we're going to run through a series of questions that were provided by our partners that, again, address major issues that we think are important, not just for Ocean Springs, but for any community. And we're going to go in a sequence. Now, we did pull some lots out there. We're going to introduce them in a minute in alphabetical order, okay? And then we're going to have them answer those questions in turn. I'm going to read the question out, and then we're going to have them answer question 1 all the way through, and then we're going to skip. Whoever we start with, let's see who we starting with. We start with Dennis McCreevy. He's going to answer the first question first, and we're going to go through the rest. And then I'm going to skip to the next person, and so on and so forth. We have, how many do we have, Julia? 5 questions, I think? Whatever. And, you know, if it's going late, they have 2 minutes to answer each, okay? And I didn't bring my stick. I do have my finger. I point my finger at them. It's time to quit, okay? I didn't bring my hook or a finger or my referee shirt, so there you go. And they're going to be fine, okay? But we're going to go through them. If it looks like it's getting long, we may just cut it off, and we'll end because, you know, us old people, us senior citizens, you know, it gets kind of late. But anyway, and y'all that like I am, this change of time really ruins me for about a week. I lost that hour on Sunday night or whenever, Saturday night, and I'm still suffering. Anyway, it's going a little long. We're going to cut it off, and then we'll have closing statements. Okay? Everybody good with that? Okay, so let me introduce to you tonight. We have Mr. Bobby Cox, okay, currently the Alderman at Large, is here today. Mr. John Hitchcock, candidate. Our current mayor, Mr. Kenny Holloway, and Dennis McCreevy on the very end. I had to make sure I answered or pronounced his name correctly. Okay, these are our 4 candidates for mayor. And we're going to start in this order. And again, we just pulled out of the hat, gentlemen. That's how we did it. We're going to start with Mr. McCreevy. Would you give us your opening statement, sir?
Yeah, I decided to run for mayor because we need to change the city, you know. So we need to restore trust through transparency with citizen advisory committees, lead and build smart economic and community development that benefits our citizens, all citizens, and grow our economy and preserve our small town charm and vibe. We need to expand our arts, culture, sports, and recreation to make Ocean Springs a much better place to live, work, learn, and pray. I've lived in Ocean Springs and right around Ocean Springs all my life, and I'm just not happy with what's been going on, so I decided to stand up and run for mayor, and that's pretty much it.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Holloway.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank the Ocean Springs Environmental Alliance for hosting tonight. It's a great opportunity to get out and talk amongst some friends and relatives and family out there. We live in a very special place, and once someone discovers Ocean Springs, they realize that what we have, they want the same thing. We, this administration and this board, did not start the growth we're experiencing here, but we are entrusted with preserving what makes Ocean Springs so special. I'm going to tell you a little story about a neighbor I have down the street, a respected banker, businessman. He called me one day and he said, Kenny, you got a few minutes? I want to come down and talk to you. And he did, and we were sitting there talking. We were talking about what was going on around town, the growth and so forth, and he said, you know, we've been discovered. The capital is coming to Ocean Springs. He said, we can just sit back and let it happen, or we can get involved and direct that growth in what makes sense for Ocean Springs and makes sense for the people of Ocean Springs. Our city is in great financial shape right now. It's in probably the best financial shape of our history. Yes, we are growing, but not at a pace we can't keep up with. We have made and continue to make improvements in our quality of life assets. We are focused every day on how we can preserve the charm and keep our city moving forward. People save their money all year long just to vacation in our city. People come here for what we have, and it doesn't take them long to realize how special this place is. I want to thank everybody for being here tonight, and I would be honored to have your vote on April the 1st.
Thank you, Kenny. Mr. Hitchcock, you're next.
Good evening. My name is John Hitchcock, candidate for mayor, obviously, and I request your vote from the beginning. But to tell you why I'm in the middle of this is the fact that I come from a corporate background where you have, groups of companies that consist of up to 14,000 people, lots of departments, lots of subcontractors, suppliers, and stakeholders, corporate groups that come in, and they can be very, very intense. They will all have their particular positions. They'll want to drive things. And if it goes wrong, then you can end up with the entire company being broken, infighting, personnel turnover, all sorts of bad things begin to happen. And, studying what has been going on for the past 9 months, I think the citizens have been voicing their opinion that there is a lot of things that are broken that need to be reconciled, that need to be brought to the table with a fair arbitration and leadership, and find a way to integrate those representative groups into a working organization where we can all go forward together. So, I wasn't going to get in the race, but, being pressed, I saw that there was a need, and I answered the call, and I asked for your vote on April 1st. So thank you very much.
And next is Mr. Bobby Cox.
Good evening, and I also want to thank the Environmental Alliance for hosting this event this evening and allowing us to share our thoughts and plans for the future of Ocean Springs. Those of you that also know me know that Mark won't have to shake his finger at me for going over the time limit either. So, but as most of you know, I am a lifelong resident of Ocean Springs. My family has been a part of this community since the early 1700s. I am the owner and operator of Cox's Barbershop, which my late father opened in 1961. For the last 13 years, I have been honored to serve as your alderman at large. Now, I'm asking for your support as the next mayor of Ocean Springs. We love Ocean Springs, plan to be here forever, and want nothing but the best for the city that we are blessed to be able to call home. Not just for the present, but for the future. If elected as your next mayor, I will keep an open communication and will always be transparent with the residents of Ocean Springs. I will work to maintain, improve, and expand the infrastructure throughout the city. I feel we need to be more proactive instead of reactive to this growing concern. I will make public safety a top priority by working for adequate compensation, stronger benefits, and all resources needed for our first responders to protect our community. Our historical charm is very important to me and very important to the citizens of Ocean Springs. I will work to preserve our historical charm in any way possible. I will work to attract new quality businesses, along with supporting the current businesses we already have, and make amenities such as parks, sports facilities, family recreation a priority throughout Ocean Springs. Now, with that being said, I would appreciate your support and consideration on April 1st. Thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen. We appreciate that. So it just turned out that that order is the way it all came out. So we're going to start this is our first question. And it goes to Ms. McCreevy to begin with. And it's on the topic of litter. I think everybody understands knows how to spell and understands the issue of litter. And it reads this way. Ocean Springs has a litter problem. Plastic bags, food packaging, smoke materials, and other litter are ever present along Beanville Boulevard and many other major thoroughfares. These materials enter our waterways and damage wildlife and water quality. What will you do to enforce the Ocean Springs litter law and keep our public roadsides and waterways free from litter? Mr. McCreevy, you have that first question.
Well, I think the new police chief can handle this very well, and the police need to write more tickets for littering. But I think if we catch someone littering, we can fine them $1,000. You may pay your fine, or you can choose to do 5 hours of community service picking up trash along the roads and beaches. I think at the front beach where they have buckets along the beach, that's helping a lot too. And that's pretty much the way I would handle it.
Thank you. Mr. Holloway.
Yeah, I think we need to add more distinctive signage on the Highway 90 and throughout the city, expressing our need to not have litter, the fines that'll be associated with them. I'd like to see the Mayor's Youth Council get involved on a couple of cleanups citywide throughout the year and sponsor those. But also, we have a subcontractor that mows our medians along Highway 90. I think we should add the shoulders to their contract because they do pick up when they're mowing. They do a good job picking up the medians, but the trash on the shoulders are still there, and I think that would help some too. Also, it would free up some of our road crew who would not have to mow them shoulders and get out there and pick up some trash when they're have some free time. But we did, like Dennis mentioned, we did add buckets to the beach. That's been a hit. We see several people walking along the beach out there with those buckets picking up trash. So we have been trying to be proactive. We can obviously do a little bit better job, but the litter's an issue. It's an issue everywhere, and we're not going to get any help from MDOT picking up litter. So we're going to have to take that on ourselves.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Hitchcock.
Yeah, I think this question is very relevant because of my past shipbuilding experience, because in those roles, we had shipyards, sometimes as large as 800 acres, where trash and waste had become so bad it looked like a junkyard. And I don't know about you, but when you work in an environment like that, it destroys morale, right? It destroys performance. People just are affected by that kind of thing. So in those programs that we implemented, it was all about advocating for everyone to take ownership, right? Picking up litter and trash is not just a particular department's job. It's all of our job. If we want our city to be pristine, to be well kept, to convey a sense of pride about where we live and what we have, we've all got to be involved. That means that we need to write clear expectations for the leaders, not only of our wards, but for all those different department leadership. We would go through and get out and walk the entire shipyard so that the employees could see us visibly that it wasn't beneath the leadership to actually do these things and get out there, participate, and engage everybody. We made maps of the entire facility and the hard-to-reach-to pockets of the ships, and in our case, wetlands and other types of things, that we would go in and target, make sure they were cleaned up, so that we did that initial effort to get everything that was well kept. Because I don't know about you, if you walk into somebody's house and it's immaculate, you're actually nervous about doing anything wrong, right? So we want to do the same thing with Ocean Springs. And the other thing, typically, right, making the trash cans plentiful all over and making sure they're emptied frequently. But the other part is changing our signage. Whenever you're telling people, don't do this, they typically do it anyway, right? It's all about creating a sense of ownership and participation with the rest of the community about what the city is and how we can preserve and treasure that. And then the other part is making sure that, and this is a topic that's got a lot associated with it, but the messaging that we send outside the city. We want to attract those types of people who visit the city or even pass through our city that share the same kind of values about visiting the small town USA, about investigating the environment and taking the care. So working with all of our different stakeholders, we can work to make sure the messaging is precisely on point so that we're attracting the right kind of folks to Ocean Springs. And then obviously, when you take those metrics, you rate the areas, put that grading out in the public so that people can see it. Start a little competition. Don't focus on who's bad and who's good, but who's making progress, because not every area is going to be the same. But we can begin to start making progress in all areas, no matter how good or bad they may start out. So thank you.
And Mr. Cox.
If given the honor to serve as your next mayor and in charge of the day-to-day operation, I will work towards starting a volunteer program with some of the nonprofit groups, youth groups, and resident volunteers to assist Public Works in picking up litter within our city. I will continue to work with the court system to give minor offenders the option of working off some of their fines by picking up litter as a form of community service. I will have our police department and code enforcement to focus on enforcing the litter laws already in place and try to keep offenses to a minimum. We can install new and updated signage, sending a clear message about our litter laws to help keep Ocean Springs beautiful. By prioritizing these four things along with our current plan, our city waterways should be clearer of litter and more enjoyable for all. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. And my finger fell asleep. Didn't have to use it once. Thank you. I appreciate it. I failed to say, just so you know, these folks didn't just come off the top of the head with that. We did provide these questions to them ahead of time. We gave you all about 10 minutes before the meeting, right? No, just kidding. So anyway, and also remind you, this is being recorded. If you want to see this later, you can watch it later and learn more about what they have said this evening. So let me go to the next one, and we're going to skip over. We're going to start with Mr. Holloway on this one. He's going to start this one. This is on the topic of trees, some of our favorite conversations, not just in this community, but everywhere. But it reads this way. Ocean Springs is known for its beautiful trees, which enhance our quality of life through water quality, air quality, economic and health benefits. Our current tree protection ordinance requires that, 1, new developments include the protection of existing trees and the planting of new street trees. 2, live oaks and other protected species are protected by fencing during construction. And 3, property owners that receive permission to remove protected trees must plant new trees or pay into a fund for mitigation. So here's the real questions. What will you do to properly enforce the existing tree protection ordinance? Would you be in favor of reinstating the citizen-led tree committee? Would you be in favor of hiring a city arborist? Why or why not? And we start that response with Mr. Holloway.
Yes, thank you for that question. I think we need to start adding that ordinance language to our tree removal application so it's clear to someone who wants to try to remove a tree what they're going to be faced with. You know, not every piece of property has enough room to plant a new tree on it. Mine would be the case. You know, we've got 2 beautiful oak trees. We'd never take them down, but if we did, we don't have room to plant another one. It's a small piece of property. So I would recommend that we come up with some type of sum of money that would go into the Ethelyn Connor Fund to help with the tree canopies. We just surveyed all the oak trees in downtown, had an arborist look at them about how we should be pruning them, how we should be fertilizing them, how we should be protecting the roots and so forth. So we are using those arborists. You know, and I also say this, we're very happy to work with Jose on planting 200 new trees throughout our city. And they've got 60 ready to go, spots to put them in. So that's a big help, and thanks for the partnership with Jose. 2 years ago, when I was in Jackson, I met with the Transportation Commissioner, Commissioner Busby. I asked him to help me with the power lines that run down Government Street and Washington Avenue. I think we need to remove those power lines from the tree canopy, because when they come through there pruning those trees, they don't prune them, they butcher them. And that's probably one of our most valuable assets in the city of Ocean Springs. So what we've worked out is with Mississippi Power and CSX to move that high-powered feed off of Government Street and move it back onto the CSX right-of-way. That way we can backfeed Government Street, bury those power lines underneath the street and along the sidewalk there, and do all of our lighting and telephone lines without having them go through our tree canopy. We're going to do the same concept a little bit differently on Washington as a phase 2. We probably run the high feed down Jackson, power backfeed Washington Avenue. You only have to go about 4 foot under these oak trees to get through the root system. They don't have a big tap root. Most of those roots are spread out. As far as the tree committee, I wouldn't be opposed to reinstating the tree committee as long as they had viable alternatives to the homeowners who were wanting to do those remove trees. That tree committee would have to be at a board meeting every 2 weeks to give the board a report on it, though. And I would, as far as an arborist goes, I don't think we can afford a full-time arborist. I don't think we can keep a full-time arborist busy, but I do favor using a third-party arborist like we're doing now. And unless we had an arborist, we found an arborist that could do dual roles in something besides arborist. So I like the third-party arborist. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. McCreevy. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Hitchcock. I'm going to get you all straight.
Okay. In my mind, this solution really involves authentic and effective representation of the different groups involved, right? The citizen-led tree committee should be brought back, without question. But they should also be part of a larger group that addresses the entire environment. And not only should these people, have input and be able to provide insight, they should have a structural authority in the planning, approval, and inspection processes of what we're doing. So my plan is basically looking at the balance of these representation groups and then the environment being a very strong one to make sure that when all of our plans, when all of the approvals are looked for, when all the inspections are done, all these boxes are checked and the gates are there to make sure that people are being held accountable all through the process. This larger environmental board is not just the trees, tree canopy, but it also includes the waterways, the wetlands, the watersheds, storm hardening, fish and wildlife, and the hazardous contamination that needs to be remediated. All these things have to be taken care of. The other aspect is the fact that I'm focused on finding ways to get these representative groups involved in the city, not just in a consulting manner, but structurally pulled in so that they're part of what goes on. So hiring an arborist, you know, that is a possibility, but it does need to be aligned with the budgets, the balance, and a plan that we have going forward. The main thing we have to focus on is the engagement of all the people in Ocean Springs, the representation of all those people, and that we go forward together on a well-reconciled plan that involves everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cox.
Yes, sir. Our tree canopy is one of many attributes that gives Ocean Springs its unique charm. As I said in my opening statement, I want nothing but the best for Ocean Springs. That being said, the tree ordinance in place needs to be followed by all. We need to ensure mitigation requirements are met by everyone and make sure new trees are planted. This will ensure we protect for the present and replenish for the future. I am not in opposition to a tree committee of sorts, but to mainly assist the building department to ensure mitigation and that the new trees are planted, more of a team effort approach to help maintain and protect our trees. I am also in favor of hiring a contracted certified arborist to assist the city on a as-needed basis and to also help with a maintenance schedule to keep our trees healthy and beautiful. I want everyone to be able to enjoy our tree-lined streets and our shaded parks throughout the city for years to come. Thank you.
Mr. McCreevy.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that I'm not a politician, and I get straight to the point on stuff, okay? I'm a regular working guy, and I believe on the trees, the building department should enforce these rules a little better. And I am all for selecting Ocean Springs citizens to serve on a tree committee. But I do believe that citizens should be able to trim their trees in their yards also. And I think if and when we would need an arborist, I think we should contract an independent who does not have any ties to developers. And that's it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Hitchcock is going to get this next question first. It's on the topic of balancing development with open space and parks. And it reads this way: much of the land recently annexed by the city of Ocean Springs is undeveloped, with large parcels likely comprised of wetlands. As the pace of development increases, many voters are concerned that Ocean Springs will lose its special character. What is your plan to balance development with conservation? What is your plan to ensure that all residents have access to green space, parks, and recreation? Again, Mr. Hitchcock.
All right, well, thank you for that question. Right now, and I've mentioned these representation groups, right? They are very important on how we lay out the various boards and committees that support the city administration and the Board of Aldermen in the way that we do business. But right now, our planning vehicles, all the things that we do for the planning department, planning commission, and even what come forward, always seem to be oriented toward one particular interest group, and that is for economic growth and development. The residents seem to be left out. The environment seems to be somewhat neglected. Our tree canopy is diminishing. There are so many. Our infrastructure is rarely talked of. So all of these interest groups need to be pulled into that picture and structurally integrated into that board so that they work together. We have to make this change so that the city's processes for planning, approvals, and inspections consider all of these things. So business and economic growth should definitely be one of the representation groups. But the residents' desire for open spaces and parks needs to have equal representation and go into our strategic planning and regular updates to a sustained comprehensive plan so that it's a living document that we can use to guide things. Other representation that should be there is the strategic planning, the infrastructure, crimes and safety. all of our communal assets in the historic districts and other beachfront districts and other things that make us who we are, as well as keeping our education and libraries up. So my focus is to make sure all these things are pulled in a systematic, organized way so that we can move forward, unite the city, and get rid of the overemphasis in one direction or another, and make sure that we have a solid, proactive, comprehensive plan that we're all engaged in working out so that we can do this together. Thank you.
Mr. Cox.
Yeah, we are very fortunate here to have Gulf Island National Seashore and our land trust conserving and managing large areas of wetlands and uplands in our area. We need to continue supporting their efforts in conservation and work with developers to include parks within new residential developments. Any development in wetlands must work with the Army Corps of Engineers to mitigate any wetland use. Parks, sports facilities, and family recreation will be a priority under my administration. Maintaining and improving our current amenities and adding additional amenities based upon the needs of Ocean Springs will be prioritized. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McCreevy.
Right. Under my leadership, we're going to appoint advisory committees to oversee these developments. The committee members will then report back to myself and the Board of Aldermen with their recommendations. I think we need a lot more green spaces and parks. The developers are going to have to come up with a plan to talk it over with the advisory committee to get approval. Because what we want in our town is smart development to preserve Ocean Springs' charm and treasure. I think our planning commission and the advisory committees would need to work together on these projects with the developers.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Holloway.
Yeah, we need to continue to look at areas, especially in the annexation area, where we can add walking parks, regular parks. We need to require land developers to set aside green space for parks when they're developing subdivisions. We need to look for opportunities to access the Fort Bayou Blueway going north in the Ocean Springs Road. And I'm not sure exactly what you said about ensuring all residents. I'm assuming that you're talking about handicap accessible. That is a must. We have a lot of great parks in Ocean Springs. We're constantly putting money into those parks, and we need more. Yes, we do. But we also need to make sure that when these subdivisions are developed or when these opportunities arise, that we require these developers to set some green space aside for parks.
Thank you. Okay, moving right along. We're on the fourth question. And Mr. Cox, you get this one first. And it's on the topic of property at Pine Drive and Government Street. The use of the Leica property at Pine Drive has been a source of concern for many residents. The property is contaminated with industrial pollutants, and the property owner is many years behind in his plan to clean up the property. Will you commit to hiring an independent expert to verify the safety of this property before any development is allowed on it? Do you support a hotel and conference center being built at this location? What percentage of Leica and Public Works properties do you believe should be set aside for green space and recreation?
Thank you for that, Mark. The property at Pine Drive and Government Street is a privately owned and has contaminants in the soil. Those contaminants and the mitigation are being monitored and tested by MDEQ. Until they give the go-ahead and the above-mentioned contaminants have been properly mitigated, there will be no construction on this site. I will commit to support hiring an independent expert to ensure that MDEQ reports are accurate and that the required removal of contaminants has taken place. Concerning the hotel and conference center at this location, I believe Ocean Springs could benefit from a hotel and conference center, although I do personally prefer it to be in a different location for easier access and less congestion in the downtown area. However, the current zoning and UDC guidelines for this property allows the developer to go forward with this project once the requirements, contaminant cleanup, and mitigation has been completed and verified. The Leica property is privately owned and is not part of our public works site, so it's not within our city control. As for public works site, I believe we need to keep a staging area for public works so that they can facilitate events, activities, and festivals in the downtown area. The remaining land should all be used for recreation. We should refurbish and expand the Ryan Youth Center, add additional baseball facilities, several pickleball courts, along with an open green space that can be used for other sports and activities. I'm not sure what the percentage of that is, but my vision is all except for the public works site staging area. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, sir. Mr. McCreevy.
I do believe we need to have independent groundwater well testers that have no ties to developers on the site and test it for many years to come. And I do not, you asked if we support a hotel and conference center, right? I do not. For one, I do not believe they can decontaminate it because it has spread so far. As they say, it keeps spreading on and on and on. It's way worse than they say. I personally believe Public Works is also contaminated because of all the chemicals they used to use when the sewer plant could not handle Ocean Springs sewer. Now, y'all call it something else. I call it Fearson Optics. There are many people who worked there that died from the chemicals and stuff that went on there. It's personal to me. One of them happens to be my mother. And on Clark Avenue and Pine Drive, the cancer rates have really been high for approximately the past 45 years. Also, I know this to be true because my little sister's only child, my nephew, lived on Clark Avenue and died of lymphoma at a young age, which could be due to the toxic ground. So this is very personal to me. And I think all of the Public Works and Fearson Optics property should be turned into some type of park service dedicated to the memory of all those who died in the 3 to 5 block area and the workers from Fearson Optics. It should be an example of what we'll not allow developers to do in our city of Ocean Springs. Plus, the more developments are coming down toward East Government, the more neighborhoods they will bulldoze down and build the new $1 million homes, which leave the regular citizens of Ocean Springs with no homes and nowhere to go. So that's my thoughts on it.
Mayor Holloway.
As far as hiring an independent expert, we have already hired an independent expert. We hired an environmental attorney, John Brunini with Butler Snow. He is monitoring the process, the cleanup process on the Pine Street location. Currently, the major contamination is in the right-of-way, not currently on the Leica property itself. There is some minor contamination there, but the concern is closer to the YMCA. As far as the hotel and conference center, yes, I am supporting that. The property is currently zoned for it. Somebody can go right there right now and put a Motel 6 if they wanted to. Just apply for a permit and build it. That's not Ocean Springs. That's not what we want in Ocean Springs. We want something that's a standard that the city deserves. We've incentivized that piece of property for somebody through the redevelopment authority to do something that's over the top and special. So if they don't do something that we want, the citizens appreciate and deserve, then they won't be able to build a hotel there and get the incentives. There is a TIF involved there, but we've structured that TIF where if we were to get grants, GCRF grants, that TIF would go away, so the taxpayers' dollars would not be used in that TIF. Currently, our high school students have to go to Biloxi to go to prom. That's not acceptable to me. You know, why do we have to have our high school students driving across the bridge into Biloxi to find a facility that can hold their prom? As far as the Ryan Center, 100% of it, if I'm reelected, will go to Parks and Recreation and Green Space. And we can do that with building a new Ryan Center, 2 courts in there to play basketball, volleyball, switch them for pickleball courts. Outside, there will be more pickleball courts, a walking track, 2 multi-use fields for soccer and baseball, some picnic areas, just 100% Parks and Recreation and Green Space. So the reason we could do that facility there, it's going to be expensive. I feel like we can get grant money to do it. Redevelopment authorities are very successful with getting grant monies, and we can pay for that facility with the 2% tax that the conference center and hotel will generate from room revenue, food, and it brings in a different clientele than what we have right now in downtown when they check in on a Sunday evening and they're in Ocean Springs on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. That's business people with lots of money, expense accounts that can shop in our shops, use our restaurants, and then flip that hotel over for families that come in for sporting events. We have no place for families to stay when they come in for the 57 complex to do tournaments. So yes, I am in support of that conference center and hotel.
Thank you. Mr. Hitchcock.
Okay, thank you for this question. Holding myself in check because I get very emotional about this question. You know, the health and welfare of every citizen in the United States or in the city of Ocean Springs has got to be our first and foremost priority of the city. So resolving this situation, they may have plans, they may have been monitoring this situation, but if we are going to convey the right message to any developer, any business, anybody operating within the realm of Ocean Springs, we have got to do everything that we can to come down on them and make sure the remediation is done. We've got carcinogens leaching out in our soil in the substrates underneath the surface. That has got to be resolved, and it's got to be done right away. So we have got to set a clear example that compliance with all the codes is not just a desirement or a recommendation, it's a demand, right? The remediation has got to be immediate and thorough. And we've got to employ fines, penalties, every kind of obstacle that we can make so that they understand that dragging this out is going to be more painful, more costly than it ever would if they would just do what they should do, right? So yes, we should hire who we need to monitor it. We should take whatever measures are necessary. And even if we have to go in and do it ourselves and get repayment for that cost or use grant money, however it needs to be done, this situation needs to be remedied so that it does not continue to spread. So no development should be taking place until this is remediated. Now, the idea of public lands, that can come later, but I'm all about, like we said, engaging the stakeholders in those wards and in those areas, making sure that we have a plan that makes sense for us all, and then whatever we decide to do together in that plan, I am all for, because I support, unlike the Redevelopment Authority, whoever's promoting that or even allowing it to go forward, I support the ownership rights of private property. If they are allowed by that zoning to develop that land, they should be able to develop how they so choose. All right, they're going to get that sense. But property ownership has got to be respected among the entire community so that we can have the trust in one another that ownership actually means something in Ocean Springs. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're down to the last question, folks. This is very good. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it. Mr. Creevy, you're going to get this one first. It's on the topic of environmental expertise. City officials are required to make many decisions that affect the environment, such as stormwater management, zoning, and permitting. What resources will you use to ensure that you are informed about complex environmental issues? Would you be willing to set up an environmental advisory committee with members from natural resource agencies, scientists, commercial fishers, and others? Why or why not? Mr. McCreevy, you get this one first.
Well, what I said earlier is we'll set up city advisory committees, which will be comprised of one person from each ward, and then 3 to 4 people who are proficient or knowledgeable in environmental policies. And we would just, get reports from them and read them and go with that.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Ottaway.
We started back when I was elected to send out RFQs for engineering firms. And we take these engineering firms and we plug them in based on their expertise. So when we have an environmental issue, we take the firm that has the environmental or the firms that have the environmental expertise and we plug them in. It's kind of like, when you choose a doctor, you don't go to your general practitioner to replace your knee. You go to a specialist to do that. And that's how we've been handling the resources and making sure that we have the right engineering firms taking care of the right projects. Let's see, an advisory committee. Well, if necessary, I wouldn't be opposed to an advisory committee like that. But then again, DMR has basically the same type of advisory committee, and the Corps of Engineers also permits environmental issues. So out of those two entities, you're not going to get anything permitted that's going to damage the environment.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Hitchcock.
Okay. And I think this is a great example for those representation groups and how we can most authentically utilize those, because they have to be invested with the authority to be involved in the process. The city has residents and groups of people who are highly active. Ocean Springs is routinely listed as one of the most educated communities on the Gulf Coast, full of successful people leading all disciplines along the coast. So my plan is to basically develop and formalize a balanced set of these representation groups, put them on that board, and make sure that the inputs to the planning department, the planning commission, and the board get the benefit of an entire group of expertise, including the trees, making sure that we've got the waterways, taking these and mapping them out so that we can see them and layer them over one another so that we can see each one separately, but also see them together and how they interact with one another. Taking those watersheds and wetlands, how we can harden for storm mitigation, and make sure that we address all the issues that are before us. So the aldermen will be greatly benefited by having that input, those assessments, and then they will be integrated into the process as a gate that things need to pass in order to get their approval to move to the next step. When there is a set of clear directives that we determine as a city should not be broken, they should have the authority to immediately go in and stop work. It needs to be done for the environment as well as human safety and other reasons. Those need to be articulated and put in place. And then also, along with the other guidelines and ordinances and codes, they can do that assessment, look at the positives, the negatives, the strengths and weaknesses of all those proposals going forward, and that can be used by all the other departments in a balanced way as these proposals make their way through the administration of the city. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Cox.
Yes, we rely heavily on the engineers who review our stormwater management along with our zoning and permitting. Our planning commission, zoning and adjustment boards, they also vet any issues that may arise. I will use the resources through MDEQ, Mississippi State Extension Services, the Environmental Protection Agency, DMR, and other engineers to stay informed about complex environmental issues. I would not be opposed to an advisory committee being used on an as-needed basis when the Planning Commission needs assistance and when environmental issues arise. The more eyes we have looking at the issues, the better the results will be in the end. Thank you.
Gentlemen, thank you for these wonderful questions. Or answers, I'm sorry, but before we get to the end, where they're going to give us some final comments, I just want to thank you all for participating tonight. You know, we've had this conversation tonight with many of these folks up here and many others. It's a shame about the apathy in this country about people voting, much less learning about the candidates that are putting in public office. It's a democracy. You have to participate actively. So thank you all for doing that. I also want to thank all 4 of these candidates for coming here tonight and participating. Again, and the Alliance is dedicated to having a conversation, okay? It wasn't a debate for a reason. We just want to hear what they want to say, okay? Asking them good questions, getting their answers, then you can make an informed decision. So thank you for that. And before I forget, I also want to tell you, again, the Alliance, one of our big things we do every year, this is the 4th annual year for our Earth Day. So come back to the Mary C in a month on the 19th of April. We have a great program as usual. That's what we try to do. We try to do outreach, and frankly, this is outreach in the best way. If we can't get our public officials that are running for public office to tell us what they want to do, we're not doing our job as an environmental alliance. So again, thank you for doing that. So we're going to give, and again, we're going to go in the original order, and each one of these gentlemen can give a closing statement. We start with Mr. McCreevy.
Well, like I told y'all a while ago, I'm not a politician. I'm straight, it's a straight shooter right to it. I actually didn't know we were supposed to have an opening statement and closing statement. I thought we were just answering questions here, so I did have to make that first one up real quick. Like you said, they gave 10 minutes and that, so I did make that up really quick. And so the only thing I can tell you is if you elect me as your mayor, I will give the city back to the people. And the way I will give it back to you is through the advisor committees and stuff. The people will have a say in the government downtown. So all I can ask you is to vote for me April 1st, and thank you all for showing up.
Mr. Holloway.
I'm like Dennis. I didn't know we were doing a closing statement. But anyway, we'll wing it. Again, thank you for hosting this event tonight. I want to thank the staff here at the Mary C for putting this together also. These girls do a great job for us, and we're very proud of them. Like I said before, your city is in the best financial shape it's ever been in. Our sales tax is growing. It's growing at a steady rate. Allows us to keep your property taxes down. When I was elected, I made a couple of promises. Most of those have been fulfilled, I believe. And I promised not to embarrass anybody as far as the city or embarrass myself when I was the mayor. We have been very successful in achieving grant monies to help supplement our budget. We've gone to Jackson and brought in records amount of money to do projects. These projects are specific to certain, they're specific in their use. They can't be used for anything other than what they were designed to be used for. So, and I hear people sometimes saying, well, why aren't they doing this with that money, or why aren't they doing that with that money? Well, because that's not what the legislature or the federal government sent that money down here to do. It was for that specific project. I think we've done a good job. I think the city's moving in the right direction. This city will never go back to the Mayberry city that people may want it to be. Somebody's coined the phrase, there's no U-turns. Well, there is no U-turns. You know, the city's moving forward. The city's moving forward with steady growth. I think we're doing the right growth. We're not damaging the charm of this city. We're just enhancing it as far as I'm concerned. There's some new things that have gone on Government Street that may look a little overwhelming. But I think when it's all said and done, you're going to be very proud of what's happened on Government Street and in other areas of the city. Our city is growing out to the east. We've got some infrastructure to do out there. We currently have invested all of our ARPA funds in infrastructure matched by the county and the state. There's $17.5 million worth of water, drainage, and sewer that's going on throughout our city right now. So there's a lot going on underneath the ground that people don't realize. Highway 90 is getting ready to be widened. to 6 lanes. That's a $100 million project that I lobbied for to get moving. So we've got a lot to be thankful for here. We got a lot to be proud of in Ocean Springs. I think we're headed in the right direction, and I would assuredly appreciate your vote April 1. Thank you.
Mr. Hitchcock.
All right, thank you. And thank you so much also to all the hosts of this event. This has been a wonderful opportunity for us all and for the citizens to get to know each of us even more. One of the things that I would like to close with is the fact that, yes, we have so much to be thankful for in Ocean Springs, and even our current state. But I think that many people will agree with me that the social fabric of this city has been strained. And we are looking at a situation that could become a crisis if we continue along the path that we are. We have got to find a way to bring the community back together again. My shipbuilding experience, when you're talking about billions of dollar programs, hundreds of millions of dollars, there are very strong, intense people, many different stakeholders at odds. What has made me successful in my career is understanding how to bring all these people, whether they're entrenched, hostile, friendly, or not, together to the table, work things out, reconcile, put a plan together, and then move forward. Because ships, as big as they are, do not get built unless people work together. You do not have a choice. You actually have to produce and deliver a product to get paid. It can't linger on. So my experience, I think, is appropriate and beneficial to help mend those gaps and build those bridges that we need to bring everybody into this mix and move forward together. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cox.
Yes, sir. I do want to thank the Environmental Alliance again for hosting this event. Also, not only us 4 candidates that are sitting up here, every candidate that was here tonight that put their name in a hat to run for an office, thank you, because it is not an easy thing to do. And to put yourself out there and to put your best foot forward and do what you can do, that's really important, and it does make a better community. It really does. My closing statement, I'm kind of like the rest of them. None of us expected to do this, but I'm going to tell you, I love Ocean Springs. I am here to listen to the people. I am listening to the people. I feel like that is the best way to manage, that is the best way to govern the city, is to follow the lead of the people. So that is what I intend to do as the mayor of Ocean Springs if elected. And again, I'm asking for your vote on April 1st, and please show up to vote. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Folks, that concludes our program. One more time, please. My only last comment is if you please vote on April 1st and drag anybody, encourage anybody else you know to participate in our democracy. Thank you very much for coming tonight.